85, corresponding to the first day of April, I believe. Today, correct? And today's class dedicated for the Refuah Shelema of the young child, Pinchas Rafael ben Sara, Gamliel ben Yafa, among the Holim of Am Yisrael. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu give them Refuah Shelema, and we should have Besurot Tovot for all of Am Yisrael. Amen. Baruch Ata Adonai Elohenu Melech HaOlam, שהכל נהיה בדברו. Magnificent. I wanted to do something on Sunday, but we were not able to do it. Obvious, Baruch Hashem, busy with a lot of matters, etc. But I'd like to go over very quickly a very interesting insight from the Moed Kol Hai, Rabbi Chaim Palachi, that writes about the month of Nisan. So he writes and it says that every day we know that we do say the Nesi'im. Every day after the prayer, we say the Nesi'im. Today is the third day of Nisan. The Nasi was Eliav ben Helon from the tribe of Zebulun. Zebulun represents what? The businessmen. Issachar and Zebulun. Issachar and Zebulun, the way we understand, is that they had a partnership. They had a partnership. Even today, in the world of Kolelim, there is a concept called Issachar and Zebulun. Issachar represents the Torah scholar, the individual who sits down and learns Torah throughout the entire day, and Zebulun is the supporter of the Torah learning. So they have a partnership that obviously many people throughout the world participate in this project, in which you become financially responsible for the support of this Ben Torah, and he learns Torah, and there's a split of the Torah learning between the person that learned and the sponsors of his Torah learning. And in many kolelim, they do this, and there is even a contract called Issachar and Zebulun. Now, we even had, when we did have the Kolel campaign, one of the options that we offered was Issachar and Zebulun option. That based on the amount of your donation, you partner up with a Talmid Chacham, and this is proven to be a very successful way of generating and increasing Torah learning in Am Israel. I must give you a disclaimer that even though that a person may invest in such a partnership, that does not mean that the investor is exempt of learning Torah. No, because you say, oh, no, I give to the Kolel XYZ, if it's in our synagogue, if it's in other places of Miami, if it's in Brooklyn, or in Deal, or in Eretz Israel, the halakha is the same. That even though that a person supports Torah learning, that doesn't mean that a person is exempt. But actually the person, the way the Gemara writes, that a person must set up fixed time during the day to learn Torah, like Baruch Hashem, thousands of synagogues do worldwide. But interesting enough, the Pasuk writes, Ismach Zebulun besetecha, ve'isachar be'ohalecha. Zebulun was a sea merchant. He will travel on the oceans, the Pasuk in the Torah, Zebulun lechof yamim mishkon. Zebulun will travel overseas. He was in the import-export business. But interesting enough, there is a very powerful pasuk that says, Ismach Zebulun besetecha. Zebulun will be happy upon his departure. And I ask you a question. Let's say you travel to see a customer. Okay? You travel to a certain city to see a customer. When do you become happy? When you're on the flight? No. You're happy when you come back. You went in, you flew in, you had an appointment, you made a deal, you come back smiling. So how could it be that the Torah says that when Zebulun left home, he was already happy? If it's me, I will have said, Ismach Zebulun bahazirecha, when you return. But the Pasuk says no, besetecha, upon your departure. You know what the answer is? The second part of the Pasuk, Isachar beoalecha. Zebulun knew that the fact that he is supporting Torah learning, his trip was guaranteed success. Can you imagine? You go see a client and you're already planning what to do with the money. Usually people wait till they collect and then you plan. Zebulun says, I have a guaranteed return. What's the guaranteed return? Supporting of Torah learning. I recall reading once that the Torah that a person supports, it builds up in Shamayim. After 120 years, they give the person a card. Let me have the card. Now, how many cards you have? Let me bring my wallet out. Okay, let me bring my driver license, so nobody looks at my wallet. You want to look at it? There's no money inside. It's a lot of money in plastic, not in reality. I have the real ID and I have the federal ID, which I cannot show on the I cannot. This is special occasion only, so you better behave, because then we scan with Homeland Security and FEMA. So behave yourself. I'm going to show you my regular ID. A person comes to Shamayim, can I see your ID? Oh yeah, this is my ID. Say, no. This is your ID. No, but this is my ID. No, that's not your ID. This is your ID. How come my ID is so big? It's very simple. This is all the Torah that you sponsored during your lifetime. The Torah becomes yours. You sponsor Torah, you enable another Yehudi learning Torah, you sponsor the yeshiva, you sponsor a kollel, automatically you get the benefit. But I must repeat again what I said before. That doesn't mean, if that's the case, let me invest in Torah learning, which I can help you with that, by the way. I can help you. You know me, right? Thank you so much. I give you a menu. You can select beautiful options, but that doesn't mean that we cannot learn Torah, because no, I'm already sponsoring. That doesn't exempt you. It's like I tell you, can you have breakfast for me? When you eat your breakfast, have me in mind. What are you saying, Geberacha? No, I need to eat breakfast. You need to learn Torah also. How does it work? In what sense? Explain to me. It's a 50-50 partnership. And when there is split on the mitzvot, the mitzvah doesn't get discounted. In other words, everybody gets the sechar for the learning, the learner, and the sponsor for the sponsorship. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. There was a story that an Avrech went to Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, alav shalom, and he says, I receive a very interesting offer. Somebody wants to become Issachar and Zebulun partner, but he wants me to go retroactive. How do I do that? It says you cannot do it retroactive. The Issachar and Zebulun can work from today, because since a week ago or a month ago it was not done, so that Torah became sole ownership, intellectual property of the learner. Interesting question, interesting answer. But here he says a very powerful concept when we say the Nesi'im. Every day, I already mentioned, we began Rosh Chodesh. For the next 12 days, so to speak, 13 days, every day after, actually we are on the third day, so for the next 9 days, we have the Nesi'im. And comes the Chaim Palachi and it says, after you read the Nasi, give a few coins in tzedakah, specifically 3 coins. For what? Be'ad menuhat aviv ve'imo, for the elevation of the soul of a parent, or she'ar kerovim, or any relative, or be'ad kol neshamot mete Israel, or to elevate the souls of those from Am Israel. Be'al yedei she'ichaven, when you have this thought, when you give the tzedakah, I personally do it, ya'aseh chesed im ha'chaim be'im ha'metim. Now you're doing a double mitzvah. The mitzvah of tzedakah, because the tzedakah goes to the needy is the one that is alive, but because the tzedakah was given le'ilui nishmat, you're also doing a mitzvah to elevate the soul of a deceased person. So you benefit both the living and those that are not living. And why do you give specifically 3 coins? Or why specifically the number 3? What if I want to give a quarter? It's not enough? As long as that you give 3 coins, you're good. You can split it the way you want it. But why 3? Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. Our Neshama, our soul, it has 5 compartments. Or let's call them 5 sections. You go to a store. You go to Macy's, for example, right? How many divisions they have? Men's, women, children, shoes, bedding, whatever. The Neshama Hamavdil has 5 departments. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. These 3 words which are connected to the soul, to the spirit, the living essence. Then you have Haya, my unique Neshama, because my Neshama is not your Neshama. You agree? Your blood type is not my blood type. Maybe we have the same blood type, but we have a different DNA, correct? Your DNA and my DNA are different because that's how we are. That's called the Yehidah, the uniqueness that the Neshama contains. And then you have also Hayya, the living element. These 2, the word Yehidah in Hebrew, although it means the single one, Yehidah means also Yihud, Meyuhad, something special, and also the connector with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Don't we say many times in our daily prayers, before we do a tefillah, before we do a mitzvah, Leshem Yihud Kutsha Berichu Shinte? What is the meaning of that sentence? Leshem Yihud. I'm here to connect. I'm connecting with God. So I'm creating, says the Moed Kol Hai, a connection between the living and those that are not alive. And it goes further and it says, and what's the ultimate benefit? It's getting only better. Stay tuned. The reason why I'm telling this, we have a lot of information to share, and the day is early enough. But I think that the Hidush of the Moed Kol Hai is that even something so, let's call it simple, how much effort or how much money it costs me to give 3 coins to the kuppah, 3 nickels, 3 pennies. I'll make it easier. 3 pennies. It's not the value, it's the action. But listen to the Hidush. It says, if you do this from Rosh Chodesh, so you have every day 3 coins. How many days we say the Nesi'im for? 13 days. We say Nesi'im on the day number 13. That's the conclusion of the offerings. 13 times 3 is how much? 39. And what is the 39? It says, Kital orot talecha. is the dew of Tehiyat HaMetim. Tehiyat HaMetim, resurrection. How many times a day in our prayers we speak about resurrection? A handful of times every prayer. Mehaye Metim, Mehaye HaMetim, Melech Memitum Haye. Go in the Siddur, in the beginning, in the first few berachot, you'll see exactly what I'm saying. So at least 10 times a day, we speak about resurrection. That's part of the Yod Gimel Ikarim of Emunah. This is one of the 13 principles of faith. One of them is Mashiach's arrival. And the 13th one is resurrection, or the 12th is resurrection. But it's at the end of the list. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you know how resurrection will happen? You know? You think an idea, right? You figure an announcement will be made. Everybody get up of the grave, correct? You're not far. Because when people are buried, they are buried face up. Why they get buried face up? Because when the Tehiyat HaMetim comes, the stone will move and the body will be able to get up. The body is flat. Put your hands on the grave. You're coming out. That's Tehiyat HaMetim. But how Tehiyat HaMetim happens? A person was passed away 500 years ago. A person passed away 100 years ago. What do you have? A freezer down there? It's all depending on the zechut of the person. Some remains don't decay, don't deteriorate. We discussed this in one of the classes of Sefer Hasidim and Sha'arei Kedusha a couple of months ago, that they asked one remain, how did you survive? It says very simple. I went to sleep happy. I never slept being angry at someone. And I was mevater in life. I was an easygoing person. So things didn't bother me too much. I went to sleep with a smile. That preserved his remains. But let's talk average case. Body, I'm sorry to be a bit gruesome so early in the morning, but it's the menu of the day. You don't like it, speak to the chef, to the cook. Anyways, what happens? The body gets buried. Time goes by, the body decays. The body goes through its natural courses. So what happens afterwards? It comes to a point that there is not much substance. The bones last longer than the flesh and the skin. So you know how does the Tehiyat HaMetim happens? There is a special gift from Shamayim. It's called Tal. Ve'iten lecha ha'elokim mital ha'shamayim. Tal in English means what? Dew, D-E-W. When you say Mountain Dew, the drink, honeydew this, honeydew that. Sounds good for Pesach, right? Okay. The dew, D-E-W, is what comes down daily. It's a different from rain. Rain, Geshem, comes sporadically. Tal comes down every day. At the end of the night, before sunrise, before the sun comes out, Hashem sends the tal, so the earth is able to keep its nutrients. And the reason why the dew does not come during the daytime, because they will not reach its destination point, because the heat of the sun will basically evaporate, right, the drops of tal. That's why if you park your car at night and you come out of your house in the morning, what are you going to see on top of your car? Dew. That's called dew. and that do is maintenance to the earth. That's how it goes. So the pasuk says, "Kitat orot talecha." It's a pasuk that we say usually, God forbid, in the end of the Avelut, we say the Siduk Adin, and we tell the family sitting Shiv'ah, don't worry, there is Tehiyat Metim. And the question is, how does a person qualify for Tehiyat Metim? One of the requirements is Tal Orot. There is a special formula which is called the Tal for Tehiyat Metim. But you need to apply during your lifetime. How do you apply? By learning Torah. Every word of Torah that we learn is another drop of Tal. That's what this pasuk says. Tal orot, the Tal of the Torah, talecha. It's yours. No one can take it away from you. That's your reserve, your retirement fund for Tehiyat Metim. Bim Yosef, what happened if instead of doing just 13 days, you add one more day? What do you have? From 39 plus 3 is how much? 42. What's the meaning of 42? It says 42. It says as follows. In our Torah, we have a few times how the Torah refers to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It says, Yad HaGedolah, the strong hand. Yad HaGevura, the hand of discipline. And the third one, Ubnei Israel Yoseim Beyad Ramah. They come out with the upper hand. What's the meaning of upper hand? Victorious. So it says the Moed Kol Hai, we have 3 times the word Yad. What's the numerical value in Hebrew of the word Yad? 14. 14. 14. 14. How much is it? 42. Okay, 42. Beim Yosef Od. But you had one more 3 coins. Iyu Ma. It becomes 45. We're going to take a deep dive now into the Kabbalistic worlds. I'm going to do this very quickly so people can see it online as well. So I add 3 more, is 45. I recap. You gave 3 coins for 13 days, that's 39. 39 is the word Tal. Tal, the drops of resurrection. Tal orot, the dew of the Torah. Talecha, it's yours. Nobody can take it away from you. Mashiach comes, okay, Tehiyat Metim. Did you apply for Tehiyat Metim? Of course, I have a balance. Look at my account balance. Okay, pour the Tal. Remember, what happened to the body? Decays, like flour. You know how the human body is called? You know how Adam Arishon was called? Halato shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Chali of God. What do you mean? The Chala of God. How do you make Chala? Flour, water. The flour, God forbid, I'm sorry, is the decaying of the human body. The ashes. Now you have the tal. Now you have the dew of Tehiyat Metim. What happens when the water and the flour combine? You become bread. How did God call Adam Arishon? Hala, my bread. Hala is what? Hala, how do you write hala? Mehila, how do you write Adam? Aleph, Dalet, Mem. What's the numerical value of Adam? 45. How many coins I have here so far? 42. Plus 3 coins, 45. Numerical value, Adam. And it says, one more, ויזכה להעלותם, and the person has the power to lift the souls בגלגול בהמה או בעופות או בעשב השדה. That if a soul was reincarnated as an animal or as a bird or as grass on the field, we are able to upgrade their tikkun, which this was something that we did during the day of Birkat Hailanot. Remember the prayer of Birkat Hailanot that I explained outside? What did the prayer say? That in the event that a soul related to my soul came back through the aspect of the tree, let it be the blessing that I'm saying that creates the tikkun. Upon this, there is a halachic question. If you are allowed to say Birkat Hailanot on Shabbat, yes or no? Hacham to my left says no, because he follows the Kafa Haim. Hacham to my right says yes, because you follow Hacham Obadiah. There is a mahloket. It's not a clear-cut answer. If you're allowed to say Birkat Hailanot on Shabbat or not. What's the question? You may say, carrying the Siddur on the street, and there is no Iruv, or you don't rely on the Iruv. Guess what? In our case, it doesn't affect me, the Iruv, because we have trees in the back for Birkat Hailanot. So Iruv question is out of the window. So why then the Kafa Haim will say, don't do it on Shabbat? You're really for the answer? Because of Borer. Bnei Torah, you understand what Borer means? What's Borer means? Separating. So the Kafa Haim says, hold on a minute. Now you are separating a neshama from the tree. The spark of the neshama is in the tree. Now you say in the beracha, you are telling the spark, go back home. You're traveling on Shabbat. You're lifting the soul from the tree. You're separating it. Hacham Obadiah Yosef says that although the Kafa Haim is correct in what you achieve by saying Birkat Hailanot, but the entire halachic topic of Shabbat, of separation, has nothing to do with the world of the spirits. It has to do with the world of physicality. So Borer could be on physical items that I touch, not when it comes to the neshamot, which is not something tangible. You have deep. You like it now? Very deep. Let me ask you, how did we get to the souls? How do we get to the animal reincarnation? There is a story in the Gemara that happened with Rabbi Yehuda, and it says that one day there was a little sheep that was about to be captured by someone, and Rabbi Yehuda says to this sheep or lamb, Zil, ki lekach notzart. It says, Rabbi Yehuda says to the animal, go, you were created for this purpose. What does that mean? Says, you are your Gilgul, your tikkun is to be born into a kosher animal, and then we do shehita, and that's your tikkun. That's what Rabbi Yehuda said to the animal. After this incident, Rabbi Yehuda became sick for many years. Why was he sick? because he did not show mercy to the animal. The animal came to hide under the coat of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He wore a special robe. But hold on, didn't Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was able to see that the soul of this animal was actually a human who needed tikkun? Yeah. So why was he punished? Because irrelevant of that matter that happens on the heavens, that is beyond even our understanding, there is something that the Pasuk writes in the book of Tehillim, Berahamav al kol ma'asav, that God has compassion on every creation. Fast forward, the Gemara tells a story that one day there was like a mouse running around and they wanted to capture the mouse. Rabbi Yehuda says, stop running, open the door and he will leave. That statement was recorded in Shamayim. Because he displayed compassion on the mouse, he was healed. You get it? You know what the Ben Ish Chai says? In Perashat Ki Tetzeh. Ben Ish Chai writes, and he says a powerful statement. He says, do not minimize the value of your actions. The actions that we do on the planet Earth, they have an ashpa'ah. Ashpa'ah in English means an influence. An influence. It creates like a domino effect. It creates like a boomerang effect. If the action done here is good, so the result is good. It's like a mirror. If I look at the mirror and I'm smiling, the mirror smiles back at me. If I look at the mirror with a long face, I'm going to get the same thing. So the Ben Ish Chai writes that every action on the planet Earth that we do at any level, I did now the mitzvah of tzedakah to elevate the neshama, it benefits me. I did something le'ilui nishmat someone, it benefits that neshama, it benefits me. When will it benefit me? I don't know. But the Ben Ish Chai says every good deed has guaranteed return. But regretfully, the same answer is the opposite. A person does good, Baruch Hashem, goodness come back. A person doesn't do good, you got to deal with the consequences. The Gemara brings it in a 3-word statement. Middah keneged middah. What's the meaning of middah keneged middah? Measure for measure. Magnificent. Very, very powerful. So I know one question that somebody will ask. I know the question. I read your mind. I'm not a Navi, but it's a question that's popping up in my mind. Now, many people may be listening now. Why didn't the rabbi said this on Sunday? When the first day of Nisan started, I apologize. But I think that between the tragedy of Brooklyn and there's so many things that were going on, and yesterday we had a magnificent class with Rabbi Joy Mizrahi, so I got to give the kavod to the great rabbi. So my suggestion will be that, first of all, I must clarify, this is not a mandatory thing that you should give 3 coins at the end of the Nesi'im. Number one, it's only a suggestion. I personally have done this for a while, and I find it very practical and very easy to do. But I don't like to be selfish, knowing all the information and not sharing it with the kahal. So my suggestion will be that today or tomorrow, give whatever amount you need for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 9 coins, and then for the next 9 days, you give 3 coins. On Friday, what I personally do, I do double. 3 for Friday, and 3 for Shabbat. Because on Shabbat, we say the Nesi'im as well. So that's it. But I repeat, if you don't do it, you're still a beautiful person. That's a different story. That's a different shiur. That's a different class. Okay? This is the one concerning to the Nesi'im. Now, one more thing. This is nothing. This doesn't apply to us. This doesn't apply to us for this year. The way the Pesach happens to be. Okay, we're getting ready now for Shabbat Gadol Mukdam. Mukdam means advance. Last night we were discussing a bit of the reason why our Hachamim made the takana on Shabbat Gadol. Actually, this takana comes from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, the pasuk says, "Vaydaber Moshe et Moadei Hashem el Bnei Israel." Moshe Rabbeinu, the Gemara writes, made a takana. During every holiday, you have to review the laws of the holiday. But Pesach, the Halacha says, Shoalim bedorshim, 30 days before, we start dealing with Pesach. You know, I mean, you have no idea how many questions I get daily about Pesach. All types of questions. Kashering, products, mostly these are the two on top of the list. This Shabbat, as I said, we're going to be welcoming Be'ezat Hashem, Rabbi Chaim Arking from the JSOR, which last night I believe they had a beautiful class at Lawrence Avenue. It was broadcasted live via iTorah.com. Beautiful shiur. I was able to look at it for a while. I needed to continue with a couple of things, but Be'ezat Hashem will have similar setup this Shabbat. So I encourage everyone, send questions in advance directly to me. I'll put them in writing. We already have 25 questions already lined up for this coming Shabbat. So feel free to do so. We're going to filter them. Obviously, anyone that asks the question, I answer them, try to answer them on the spot, on the same day. Because sometimes you need to, you're in the supermarket. Last night it happened 3 times. Somebody is in the supermarket. Rabbi, can I buy this? Rabbi, I'm in the checkout. I didn't see kasher lePesach. Keep it or send it back. Depends on the product. So I have a couple of listings from the OU, JSOR, Star K, obviously reliable ashgahot. So we are able to get, and I usually take a screenshot of the answer so the person sees it and they have the answer by themselves. But this is something that in Pesach, this is something that asking the questions is actually a pasuk in the Torah. Ki shalecha bincha lemor mazot. Like we heard yesterday in the Haggadah. Your child is asking you. Guess what? There is no shame and embarrassment to ask questions. Somebody asked me, I was walking from the Minyan here. I need Matsah Shemura. Florida sells Matsah Shemura. So I'm going to say this openly to the entire audience from Brooklyn and Deal. Baruch Hashem, Florida has Matsah Shemura. Last night I went to one of the kosher supermarkets and then I stopped by the Matzah department. I stopped counting 18 options of Matzah Shemura Abodat Yad. Which one do you want? Badatz? Which one do you want? Ravlando? Thick or thin? You want Montreal? Which one do you want? You want from Lakewood? You want spelt matzah? You want oat matzah? You want wheat matzah? You want whole wheat or regular flour? I stopped counting by the 18th option. I said, forget about it. I remember as a child, Argentina back then didn't have Matsah Shemura. Today, I think they have already. But back then, I remember we used to go to the Hakam Shehebar Alav Shalom, to the synagogue, and we used to put our name on the list for Matzah Shemura that will come from Israel by boat. When did we needed to place the order? Hanukkah. Because it was 60 to 75 day transportation by boat. Who heard of airplanes? Argentina to Israel. You gotta take probably 2 or 3 flights back then. I remember we got the phone call from the rabbinate. The secretary called everyone, sir, your matzot came Sunday from 8 to 8, come to pick up your matzot. I remember they used to go sometimes with my father, Alav Shalom, or by myself and my brother, go with a carriage, pick up the Matzah Shemura. That was our Matzah Shemura in the 70s, even in the beginning of the 80s. Kasher LePesach products, the only time a year we ate chocolate was Pesach. Kasher LePesach chocolate was our treat. Then we go to the knees, pick up the coffee, the sugar, the spices, maybe 20 products, kasher lepesach. Today, you even have bread kasher lepesach, which I'll tell you, I'm not happy. And I'm saying this publicly. I'm not happy. Bread kasher lepesach, it defeats the whole purpose of matzah. No, but people like it. People eat shrimp. I'm Avdil. But if you understand the Kabbalistic meaning of matzah and the spiritual representation of bread, is a discrepancy in Avodat Hashem. First, the Zohar Kadosh calls the matzah not silta, pita, achla, machla di memenuta, machla de asuta. The Zohar Kadosh says the matzah is the food of emunah, and the matzah is the food of healing. David HaMelech writes, Toratecha betoch me'ai. Your Torah, I put this in writing in the JSOR magazine article. Your Torah is inside of my digestive system. Now, what does it mean? My Torah is on my digestive system. So I think that Rabbi Akiva Iger writes that from all of the mitzvot of the Torah related to food, the only mitzvah that we can actually do is eating matzah. The other mitzvot related to food is terumah, that we don't have today, ma'aser, korbanot, lechem hapanim from the Bet HaMikdash. Today we have none of the above. Yes, we have kosher food, but kosher food you have 101 options. But matzah is one option. And the Zohar Kadosh explains that what's the benefit of the matzah versus the hametz is that the matzah is thin. That represents humility. That represents the anava. The Zohar Kadosh adds and it says that represents the Yeser HaTov. Bread, the ego, it inflates. That's ga'ava, haughtiness, arrogance. The opposite of anava is ga'ava. Ga'ava leads to anger. That's when the ego of the person is inflated. That thickness of the bread, says the Zohar Kadosh, is the Yeser Hara. So you have the Yeser Hara and the Yeser HaTov. Jose, you're from Argentina, right? Argentina has matzah factory. No matzah factory? Ah, it used to be. Right. Okay. Used to be one. It didn't work out apparently. So the Matzah bakery now is importing matzot, which is okay, but it's easy. Today, Baruch Hashem, it's easy to order and to get matzot. It's not a big deal, right? It's a lot of labor. Remember what we learned the halakha the other day. Matzah shemura, by hand. Hakam Rabbi Yosef writes, and I saw it last night. We didn't get there. Soon we're going to start going through the deeper levels of the seder and the matzot, etc. But he writes and it says that the ideal right here, the ideal matzot for Pesach, at least for the seder, should be matzah shemura by hand. And it requires a lot of physical labor. Why? Because matzah shemura by hand is what? The matzah that's called avodat yad. Avodat yad means handmade matzah. Now, why the matzah handmade is ideal? Hakam Rabbi Yosef writes, because when you do the matzah, you need to have the kavanah leshem matzah mitzvah. You're doing the matzah for the sake of the mitzvah. You never watch a video how they make matzah shemura by hand? The amount of labor involved and the amount of people involved is beyond our understanding. Because everything is by hand. The sanding of the poles by hand. The kneading of the matzah with the flour is by hand. Everything, there is no machinery. There is no machinery dealing with the matzah shemura. From the moment that they harvest the wheat in Arizona, at least in America, that's where the wheat comes from. For the matzah, they have to keep it in storage for a year in a comfortable temperature setting storage, because if it's too hot, then the matzah will become hames faster. Even the temperature of the water, mayim shelanu, the water that was kept overnight. You cannot just take water from the faucet, because the water comes with a certain temperature. If it's exposed to the natural elements, could be too hot or warm or freezing cold. The coldness of the water slows the process. The warmth of the water expedites the process. So what the halakha says, you take water, let it sleep overnight, and the water needs to be drawn before sunset. Overnight, 12 hours, after Alot HaShahar, I think that's what the Menachem writes, then you can start using the water for matzah baking. So for a more meaningful seder, from many, many aspects, at least for the seder, use matzah shemura by hand. Some of us eat matzah shemura all week. Some people eat only during the seder. We're not trying to change people's life. We're just trying to create an educated level of information so people are able to fulfill the mitzvot, especially in the mitzvah that comes once a year. The mitzvah of Pesach is once a year. Tizku leshanim rabot, Pesach kasher v'sameach. We'll have the Spanish class for ladies in an hour approximately. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hananiah ben Akashia Omer, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות